So starting with number 1, we have to find X, Y, and Z. So think alphabetical order. Usually it's going to go in alphabetical order. If I want to try to find X, X is right here. Is there 2 other things that I could use to add to make a straight line or half of a circle? (81) and 83, these 3 angles right here would make half of a circle or a straight line. Because if I cover up half my picture, it's a perfectly straight line. So if I subtract from 180, what would that missing angle have to be? 16. So I'm going to put 16 right here. And now I'm going to use the same concept to work around the rest of the circle. So I need to look for another straight line. I could look, 81, 83, and Y. That also makes a straight line. That has to add to make 180. So what would Y have to be to make a straight line of 180 degrees? (16). The reason why 16 pops up twice is because in chapter 1, we learned about vertical angles. These angles are vertical from each other. They are opposite angles. So they are congruent to each other. So I could have also used that knowledge to put 16 there as well. Or I could just keep adding to make 180. At this point, I can use something with Z to make 180 as well. What would I have to use? Oh, that's the answer, right? So if I cover up half of this, this is also making a straight line, which what's the answer? 164. So this would be 164 because 164 and 16 degrees adds to make 180. Or I could think about a whole circle. A whole circle is 360. So if I know everything else besides Z, I could take 360 minus 16, minus 81, minus 83, minus 16, and that's going to give me the remainder. Either way, it's going to get you the same answer, 164. So let's go to number 2. Let's find A first. What could I use with angle A to make a straight line? There's something specific. 85. 95. So if I cover up half this, these are going to make 180. What would A have to be to add with 95 to make 180? 85. She was saying 85 because 85 is the answer, but like I was saying, like, what do you subtract? Because 95 plus 85 makes 180. 95 plus 95 would make 190. So then, or like 200, I don't know, whatever. And then I have to find B. So now if I think about it, what do I have to use with B to make 180? 58 and 39. I cannot use this side because that does not make a straight line, but I can use this side to make 180. So if I take 180 and I subtract 58, I subtract 39, what would B have to be to make 180? 83. Or you could also think the whole thing is a circle. Let me subtract everything else from 360. Okay, let's go to the actual vocabulary. So this says central angles and arc measures. This is completely new, so it's going to sound a little funky. A central angle is an angle with a vertex at the center of a circle, and its 2 sides are created technically by radiuses, but you don't say radiuses because it's not grammatically correct. It's actually called radii. Oh, crap. Radii. There's 2 I's, not an R at the end. So this is technically forming this angle right here. This is a central angle. The sides are created by the radiuses of the circle. The center of the circle is here. This is a radius. This is a radius. The sum of all central angles of a circle is 360 degrees because a circle is 360 degrees. So an example of this is we're going to say the measure of angle ABC equals, and what does ABC actually equal? (84). So we're going to say 84 degrees. And now this is the new thing. Well, technically all of this is new. The degree of an arc, this is the new word specifically they're going to use a lot, formed by the endpoints of the central angle is equal to the degree of the central angle. What this means is an arc, and if you notice the way they write it, the measure of AC with an arc, it literally has this little like arc over the top. It's the outside of the circle. So A to C is this portion right here. Boop, boop, boop. And what they're saying is it's actually equal to the central angle. So they could ask for the angle or they could ask for the arc angle. They are the same degrees. And 84 degrees is actually a minor arc because it's less than 180 degrees. Boop, boop. A major arc is more than 180 degrees. So if you look at how it's written, they use 3 letters instead of 2 letters. So A to C is a minor. It's less than 180. If they say ADC, that's an example of a major arc. So if I start at A and I go to D and then I end at C, how much would that major arc be if it's the rest of the circle? If a whole circle is 360, I know the minor arc is 84. What would the rest of this little Pac-Man have to be? 276. Oh my God, why can't I write today? 276 degrees. So let's jump down to number 2. So you're looking at what can you fill in using vertical angles? Can you add to make 180? Can you add to make 360? All of these different things. So let's go down to number 2. There are 2 numbers in this picture. This also is going to overwhelm you, so don't even look at this. What we're going to do, disregard this completely. We're going to fill in the circle, and then we're going to go back and answer all the questions. Shh. So if I have 87 here, I have 72 here. 72 can also go on the inside. How could I figure out this skinny little tiny piece of pie? Shh. Carl, be quiet. Take a nap. Yes, we're going to add them, and then we're going to subtract. Malia. We're going to subtract from 180. So if I take 180 because it's half of a circle, I subtract 72, I subtract 87. What's that little tiny piece of pie going to be? 21. So I can put 21 here. And now I can think I can also make the other half of a circle. Let's move my hand. Let's put it over here. What would this piece be? Because it's still adding to make 180 because it's still half of a circle. It's just another half. 72. You can figure out 72 because these are vertical angles, or you could do the 180 trick. You're going to get the same answer. And then I could find out the last piece because a whole thing makes 360. So what's left? 108. So now we're going to fill in this part, which looks obnoxious and annoying. It's actually not that bad. What would be the measure of UXV? 72. What's the arc measure of ST? 21. What's the arc measure of WV? 108. And then TW is a little bit harder. If you look from T to W, it's actually talking about this whole piece from T to W. So disregard S. What would that whole piece of pi be? 93. And then this is the hardest one. Whenever they have the major arcs, major is more than 180. So it matters which direction you go. So you have to go in order. So you can't overlap W. You have to go from T to V and then end at W. So if you look straight at T and you go to W and then V, like if you go to W, if you go to V and then W, you have to backtrack. You can't go that way. So that means I have to go the other way around the circle. So instead I have to go this way. I have to go T to V all the way to W. So a major arc is more than 180. So it matters which direction you go. So you cannot go T to V and then back to W because you're overlapping yourself. You can't overlap. That just means you need to go the other way around the circle. T to V to W. So how much would this whole section be? 267. So the major arcs are where it's going to trip you up. Shh. Be quiet. So for number 4, take a second. There's one number that's given. Try to figure out where else that specific number can go. There's one other place. They also give you one other thing that you can use to try to figure out the numbers. Here. What letters? What letters can I go? QR. So 19 can go here because vertical angles say that I can move that. Now, what's this square being? 90. So if I have this portion right here, that makes that 90. So what would P to Q be if it has to add to make 90? 71. And now I can think about half of a circle. I'm going to put my hand over half of it so I can cover up half of it. It would not make sense for me to put like my hand here because that's not half of a circle. I can't just make up a line, right? There's no line there, so I can't do that. So you got to think about where you got to put your finger. So if I cover up this portion, that's half of a circle. It's a straight line. So what has to go on the other side? 90. And then I could do one of two things. I could cover up the other half to add, make 180, or I only have one more missing piece I could add to make 360. Either way, what's that massive piece going to be left over? 161. So take a second, see if you could figure out the rest of these. You have to be careful with your major arcs. Your major arcs are the ones that are going to trip you up just a little bit. So take a second, try to fill in your missing unknowns. You have to go in order. So P, S to R. I can't go P, S, and then R. It doesn't, wait, S, it doesn't matter. S to R, R to S. Either way, it's talking about this one. Between S and R, what? How much? Because because it's a minor arc. That's why. Okay, so good question. If they ask for 2 letters, it has to be a minor arc because you're thinking P to Q, but then you could technically say P all the way to Q. That would be a huge piece. Since they're using 2 letters has to be a minor arc. So you cannot go all the way around your circle. So P to Q is a minor, so it has to be this little piece. So what is P to Q? 71. What would be S to R as a minor arc? 161. QRT, this is a major arc, so you're going more than halfway. So if I start at Q, I go to R, and then I end at T, how much total is that going to be? 199. This is also a major arc. You're going P, S, R. So P to S to R, how much is that? 270. And then the last one is PS. 109, because I have to combine them. So let's go to the back. On the back is like equations where we have to solve for X. It's the same thing, same concept. So let's go to number 6. So at this top problem right here. So number 6, I am not given every piece of information. I do not know this piece. I do not know this piece. I thought about 4 different ways you could solve this. You're going to get the same answer no matter what. You could fill in all the missing blanks and then equal it to 360, add them all up equal to 360 because a whole circle makes 360. Or you can use what you know to see if there's equal parts. So do you want to fill in the missing pieces and add to make 360 and have a really long equation? Or do you want to try to make your equation a little bit smaller, but you have to think about what you have? Perfect. So we're going to make our equation smaller. If this is 103, on the other side is a vertical angle. It is not just this little skinny piece because that would not make sense. They're not congruent. But if I add in this other piece to it, these are creating vertical angles. So I could take this portion and equal them to each other because vertical angles say that they are congruent. So I'm going to do 18x minus 2 plus 15 equals the other side, which is 103. And now I can combine my numbers. -2 and 15 make 13. And then it's a two-step equation. So I can minus 13 to both sides and then divide. So I have 18x equals 90. Divide by 18 to both sides. So what do we end up getting? Somebody said it. What? 5. So you could, though, also, while you're thinking about that, I could take 180 and I could minus 103 and put it here, and I could put it here because vertical angles are congruent. And then I could have had a really long equation where it's this plus this plus this plus this plus this equals 360. You would get the same exact answer, but your equation would just be longer. So there's different ways to do this, okay? You could have also figured out this piece and then added technically to make 180, half of a circle. So there's different ways to go about it. Let's go down to number 9. Yeah, take the pass. Go down to number 9. Think about what you have. The whole point of this is either you're equaling things to each other to make vertical angles. You're equaling to 180 because you have half of a circle, or you have to equal to the whole thing to make 360. So look at number 9, see if you have any vertical angles, see if you have a half a circle. If you don't have vertical angles and you don't have a half circle, then you're going to have to make a whole circle. So those are kind of like your 3 options: vertical, half, whole. Vertical is going to be the easiest. Half is going to be the next easiest. Whole is going to be the longest, but it's like, it's not terrible. So do I have any vertical angles in this question? Does 90 match with anything else? No. There's no other small piece. This is like a medium piece. There's no other obnoxious. So vertical angles are out because there's no equal pieces. Now I'm going to look for half of a circle. So if I use my finger in any sort of way to cover up any of these lines, are they making a perfect half of circle? No, because all the lines are slightly off. So then my only other option is to add to make a whole circle. I know all of these things, and just like Malia said, this square is 90, so I could put 90 out here. I know every piece, so I'm going to add them all up and equal it to 360. So I'm just going to start at the top. I'm going to say 8x plus 21x minus 12 plus 10x plus 9 plus 90 equals 360, because the whole thing needs to make 360. And then I can combine like terms. So I'm going to add up all my x's like we used to do. I'm going to add up all my numbers like we used to do and equal it to 360. So if I have 8 and 21 and 10, how many x's do I have? $39. And then I have to add up all my numbers. So I have negative 12 plus 9 plus 90. And that 12 is negative, so be careful with that. $87 equals 360. And then it'll reduce to a two-step equation. So I'm going to minus 87, and I'm going to divide by 39. So x equals 7. So you're going to have to plug these back in. So instead of even like looking over there still, just because it's like a hot mess whenever you look at those answers, I'm just going to take my x, I'm going to plug it in. I know this piece is 90. I have 8x. What is 8 times 7 going to give me? So 56 can go here. And then I know this is, and you don't even have to write it down. You could literally do it in a calculator. 21 times 7 minus 12 gives me what? 135. And then I'm also going to plug it in here. 10 times 7 plus 9. 79. So now you should be able to look at your answers and just plug in your values. So try to take a second, try to figure out if you can figure out what goes where. One. E X W. Okay. So for the first one, X is 7. WX is just WX, this little one, 135. Minor arc, 146, because I had to add 90 and 56 together. 79 is just 79. The major arc is going to trip you up. I have to go from V to X to W. So I'm basically going all the way around except for this piece. So I just took 360 and minus 56, or you can add them all up, but you should get 304. How do we feel?